third annual conversation with the city manager, and what we like so much about it is that it's an intimate small group. And this evening, we're very happy to have people here from the Youth Commission, from ECO, from Green Roots. We have hopefully a new, coming on soon, advisory board member. We have people from planning and development. Carl, and am I missing anyone? So we're just very happy to have you all here to ask questions and hear about what's happening in the city. I also want to introduce our Greg Diamajan. Greg is our translator if anybody needs any translation services or help. Does anybody? Okay, so maybe somebody walks in, maybe, that would be great to help us. So without further ado, Tom, please stand.
Well, thank you, B. Thanks for coming. This, as B said, this is the third time I've done this conversation at community schools. The last couple of times, it's mostly been some of the older residents here, so this is a little different, and perhaps we can focus more on youth-related issues or issues that are pressing for the folks that are here. I don't have any prepared speech to give. Just tell you a little bit about my background and how I arrived here. I grew up in Revere, right next door. Lived there most of my life. I went to school there. I went on to go to law school and practice law for about 10 years. And then I started to get involved in local government in Revere. I was on the school committee for 6 years. And then I was a city councilor for 4 years after that. And then I was mayor of Revere for 12 years. I left, wanted to become a judge. That didn't work out. But while I was in the judicial system, and when I was there, I met a fellow by the name of Harry Spence. Harry was the former receiver for the city of Chelsea when Chelsea was in bankruptcy in the late 1990s. And he encouraged me to apply for this position when it became available, when the former city manager, Jay Ash, took a job with Governor Baker. The job became available. Harry Spence encouraged me to apply. I sort of missed municipal government. I really liked being mayor in particular. I liked being the boss. That was a good job. And it was another job where I could be the boss. So I applied. And thankfully the council selected me, gave me a 4-year contract. That was 3.5 years ago. So I've been here 3.5 years. I have a 4-year contract that expires on June 30th. So it'll be up to the council to decide whether they're going to offer me a new contract or not. I should hope they do. I really like it here in Chelsea. I've enjoyed the job immensely. I think the city is vibrant and growing and has a great future ahead of it. And I really love the people here. I love working with the nonprofits that are in the city, Green Roots and Chelsea Collaborative and ROCA, Neighborhood Developers, CAPIC and others. Just find they have really dedicated people looking out for the best interests of Chelsea. So, like I said, that's what brought me here. I have worked hard the last 3.5 years to try to improve things in Chelsea. My focus really has been in 3 areas: economic development, trying to continue the great work that Jay Ash had done. Economic development really is essential for any city and town. It's the only way you can really generate any money in order to provide city services to people. And so I've made that a focus. I've also focused on infrastructure improvements, trying to do a lot of streets and sidewalks, improve neighborhoods in the city, do new lighting on Broadway, new benches, banners, Christmas lights, things to make people feel good about their city. And then the third place where I've tried to spend some political capital is in the school department, giving it the resources it needs. Done some good things in the school department, including the thing I'm most proud of, something that the city council passed last year, which was it's a pilot program. I'm hoping it will continue every year, but last year was the first year where we fully funded any Chelsea high school student who had taken, had done the early college courses with Bunker Hill. As long as they had passed, I think, 12 credits, the city committed to paying in full their tuition in order to get an associate's degree at Bunker Hill. That program started last year. I think we accommodated maybe 90 students at Chelsea High School. I can't remember the exact number. I know it, but it just slipped my mind. But there's a lot of Chelsea High School seniors who graduated, who we are currently paying to get a full associate's degree at Bunker Hill. And so that program is going to hopefully continue. I'm going to go back to the council for more funding. Like I said, it was a one-year pilot, but it was very successful. And I'm hoping that the council is going to continue that program in the years ahead. So with that, I'm happy to open it up to whatever questions that you have and try my best to answer them. So we start right over here.
Well, I just wanted
Can you say your name and just, where you're from?
my name is Omar Tashe. I'm from El Salvador. I came to the city 5 years ago. Actually, I came to the country 5 years ago. And
You're youth commission member?
yeah, I'm a commissioner. And I want to say I have loved the city of Chelsea. I essentially have really built up my linear mindset that I have in Chelsea, and I've seen a lot of teachers really have helped me, and the school system has really been helpful to me. I just feel like it really opened up a bunch of opportunities of the world to me, and it just helps me see better. And I just want to get some insight from you and what you have to say about how you see the students in Chelsea High School, as well as other schools like middle school and elementary school. I just want to know how do you feel like that's going right now?
So, just generally my perspective on public school education is that it has to be a priority for any city. It's the only way to really attract and maintain good families in your city is if you have a good school system. I spent a lot of time when I was mayor of Revere focusing on that school system, and really I felt it really got elevated in the time that I was mayor. I've tried to give as equal support to the Chelsea public school system since I've been here 3 years ago. The city's invested a lot of money in the school system in the last 3 years, working side by side with the superintendent of Burke. Your school system has more challenges than the Revere school system, just in terms of the demographics and makeup of the student population. There's a lot of new arrivals that come into Chelsea, and that demographic is hard to, not hard to teach, but it's hard to show high test scores with that kind of demographic, because for the most part, a lot of the new arrivals just don't have the educational background that American students have. And so a system that's absorbing a lot of new arrivals, it's going to take that system time to get those students to the level where they're prepared to deal with the American school testing system. And so, unfortunately, the way school systems are judged in Massachusetts is by standardized test scores. You score high, you're considered a great system. You score low, you're considered a poor system. The reality is that it's all a reflection of what your demographics are. If the Chelsea school system had the students that Lincoln or a Wellesley have, we'd score very high as well. It has nothing to do with the education of the teachers or the curriculum. It's just the demographics of a segment that we're teaching, a lot of new arrivals. But and Mary always says this, and it's really true. Mary Burke, the superintendent. If you measure Chelsea by the success of those new students, after they've been here for 3 or 4 years, you'll see that they've made amazing progress. And so, if you focused on their progress, if they're here, if we have them for 3 or 4 years, they really do great work and they're usually well at them. But when you're taking a snapshot of their test score after a year or two, that makes it a little different. Leaving all that aside, again, I am a huge supporter of the school system. I really think that the educators do a great job, and that's why I'm happy to support it. As I said, we invested as a city, and City Council Roy Avellaneda has just joined us, and he's been one of the strong supporters of the school system. Whenever I've come to the council for financial assistance to the school department, Roy and his colleagues have universally supported it. So I'm proud that we're a city that seems to be committed to public education. I've never had any pushback from the council whenever I've gone to them with a proposal to assist the school system. And so I might as well tell you, Roy may have seen it already, but I sent a letter with working in collaboration with the superintendent. I sent a letter today to the city council requesting $170,000 for the school department so that it can purchase a protective surface for the new turf field so that the class of 2019 can have its graduation outside. So that request is before the council.
Because I guess I'll have to withdraw my order. I had an order asking for the same thing, but it's funny because I've investigated this in previous years, and I've seen it for a lot less.
So this is the kind of surface that is used at the big stadiums?
Yeah,
This is the company that did the one at Gillette.
and Fenway, yeah.
And
They said 170.
160 odd.
I was working out the numbers at the last meeting. Me and Yamir Rodriguez, one of the other counselors, had gone online, looked at what it cost per square foot, guessed what the square footage was. And of course, we're just talking purchasing, we're not talking about installation or anything. We came up with like $90,000.
So we have this.
Do a bid, whatever.
Yeah, we have to go out to bid for it.
We'll
So
go
we'll
bid.
go with the bidder that comes in with the best price, but we're using that quote as a ballpark.
You know I came to you, 3 years ago?
Yes. you
And
did.
at the time you said,
Too expensive.
too expensive. And he said, we don't know where we're gonna store it. We don't have an idea, because you gotta put all this decking, in a truck somewhere. But 3 years, I'm telling you, I'm ahead of my time.
So that is the commitment in return from the school department, that they will both find a appropriate place to store the material, and they will be responsible for the installation. Whether that means they do it themselves with their own custodial force, or they hire people out, that will be on the school department's budget. But the city, the proposal to the council is that the city pay for the purchase of the product.
We'd be the first one. So you see CIP, what was this, it'll be CIP 2020?
No, this is gonna be a request out of school stabilization, existing money, sitting in school
So it'll
stabilization.
be installed for,
Be installed we'll buy it right away, we'll buy it in the spring.
so
Be
you
installed.
guys, you're gonna hand me right now requesting 2019, I wanna rent it. The September Latin American Hispanic Heritage Celebration in Chelsea Stadium like it used to be. We can't, my father and I used to do the Latin Festival way before your time. Probably were pushed around in a car, in a baby carriage when we were doing the festival behind,
What was the
Louvre.
last one, Roy? When was it?
2005 was the last one. We used to start first in, it originally was in Chelsea Stadium. Then they had to build a high school. They moved us to in front of the city hall in the plaza. And we split it between music in front of the city hall plaza, and the carnival was over in this Williams parking lot right over here. Then they moved us to the back behind Mystic Mall back then, and we had it, and that's when it grew to what it was. One of the largest Latin American festivals in the state, actually. But then the Moolah's redeveloped, and we had nowhere to go, but I've been always guessing where, and the idea, here's the thing, and this is why I'm a big fan, and I hope that you guys have participated. We got to a point where, as large as we were, in order to help pay for all the costs, we were the first festival to do it, we charged $1 to get in at a gate. And because as you put these events on, police, fire details, security, insurance, there were so many things. Without even starting, we were, $60,000, and without even putting an act on stage between the costs. And Tom, being the former mayor of Revere, knows that when you go to do the Sandcastle event or whatever, there's big costs when you do these big public events that people don't realize that you have to raise. So in order to, when my father started off selling ads to the commercials, to the to the businesses downtown, to Allen's Cut Rate and the House of Pizza and so forth. Well, guess what? You can get $100 from these guys, maybe, but you're never going to get the money you need to really pay for these festivals. So we had to get big sponsors or derive money from a gate, and that's what we did. So we did a gate, and in the 3 years that we had a gate fee, after we paid off all the police and the fire and the acts, the musical acts, we had some big acts from Tito Nieves to Gran Combo, I can think of all these names, La India, big names who you would say, wow, they came to Chelsea? Yeah, they came to Chelsea. None of the other festivals had these acts. We had them. And, but we paid everyone off. And at the end, when everything was paid off, whatever we had left, we donated to the Chelsea Summer Jobs program, youth program. And at the last year, we had about $25,000 that we had given. So, Gladys and the program, Gladys Vega from the Chelsea Collaborative, lost that benefactor. And the goal here is to use, LACA doesn't exist anymore, but the goal would be have the Chelsea Collaborative run the event. I'd come in, help them get things going, and show them how to do it. And then we can have an annual Hispanic Heritage Month, which we don't really do anymore. And a community that has 70% Latino, not having a Hispanic Heritage Month is insulting, is disappointing to me. And at the same time, be able to, again, raise money for programs that we have here in the city that benefits you guys. And that's the point of it all. So imagine having, a nice family event that everyone can go to that actually benefits the youth of the city. I mean, it's a win-win for everybody. But anyway, I'll be making my pitch. You guys are in this time.
Further questions?
I have a question. All right, so my name is Joseph. I'm part of the Youth Commission. I've been in Chelsea my whole life. This is more of a question not directed to the city, but you said you were really invested, or since you came to Chelsea, you were invested in the school department. All right. So as Roy just said, there's like 70% Latinos in the city of Chelsea, right? And 70% is like over 2/3. I was wondering what the process is for hiring new teachers within the School of Chelsea, because since I've been here, I think I've only had a total of 2 Hispanic teachers out of probably 20 or 30 that I've had in my total lifespan in Chelsea, and I've lived here my whole life. And also as I've grown, I've gone to see I go to Chelsea. I'm a junior now, and I see that in Greenside or where the ELL kids are, the majority of them are also Hispanic or Latino who just came. And what I see when I walk through those hallways are a majority of American teachers who don't speak Spanish or speak very little Spanish. So I was wondering what your process is for hiring these new teachers when there's obviously like we were just talking about the demographic, like there's like this large demographic of Hispanic kids that just came. Like how are we benefiting like from these Hispanic kids coming to Chelsea, but also not getting, and like saying, oh, their demographic is hurting our test scores, but also not doing something proactive by hiring teachers that actually speak Spanish. Or also, like, I also know there's like a growing population of like North African students at Chelsea High. Like, why don't we have someone that speaks like these languages that like that would help the students, or like not even have like a huge population of teachers, but at least like some translators, some tutors that could like improve like their actual understanding of some of the content. Because I have friends from the ELL section of the school or Bridge Academy that sometimes don't even understand what the teacher's saying or can't communicate to them. Sometimes I even find myself translating for these kids. So I don't even know what that was.
So that's a very fair question. I can't answer it for the school department, not because I don't want to, but the way my role as city manager under your city charter, the charter that the residents of this city voted on 25 years ago, has no role for me in the school department. I don't hire anyone, I don't fire anyone, I have no direct involvement with the school department other than helping them with their funding. They come to the city looking for funding for their budget. That's when I talk to them about how much money they need. But I have no legal authority to get involved in any of their operational needs. That's exclusively within the purview of the elected school committee and the superintendent. That's a good question to ask those two bodies as to what are they doing to diversify their teaching ranks, because I would agree with you, with a population like we have, and as Roy said, the city's probably 70% plus Latino, but the public school department is probably 85% Latino. So it's even a greater percentage. And with a demographic like that, I agree with you completely that there needs to be a focused effort to hire teachers that speak Spanish and are more like the student population. What I can say on the city side is this: I am responsible for hiring people that work on the city side of government, not in the school department, on the city side, the people that work in City Hall. I've really made a concerted effort to hire people who speak Spanish. Not every person I've hired does that, but the overwhelming majority of people that I hire do speak Spanish, because I recognize the people that come to City Hall, a lot of them need that service. So I've really tried to hire a diverse workforce. I feel like I have done that when it came to people on the city side of government. That includes police officers that we've hired. That includes firefighters that we've recently hired. I've really tried very hard at the urging of the city council to ensure that those groups start to look more and more like the population of the city. I will say I think there's some success. The most recent group of firefighters we certainly hired off the firefighter list were majority Latinos. The police department, I think, is the most diverse police department in the whole state. The police department in Chelsea has more minority percentage. I think it's close to 40%. It may not seem all that high when you have a population that's 70% Latino, but a police department with 40% minorities, that's the highest percentage in any city and town in the whole compound.
And if you actually look at it by years of service, you'll see that the basically younger you go, the higher that diversity rate is. Yes, we've integrated, so we went to a policy that says the newer recruits are much more diverse than, obviously you have individuals who have been there 15, 20, 25 years that are on top, so they make it up. But as this class continues to go higher, then you'll see more diversity. So yes, you'll see that someday we already have a Latino chief, but you'll see more. You're seeing more and more higher ranking officers now that are Latino, and that wasn't the case.
In
I-
the- in- I was-
I'm sorry, I just want to
Yeah,
add
sure,
one thing.
sure.
I would say of the last 20 police officers I hired, and I just happen to have hired a lot of police officers, I think probably 15 or more were minorities. Very few were white.
And mind you, these were military.
Yes.
This is also a military
Yes.
preference. You know, if you served in the military, you get a preference being hired. I mean, a lot of the guys that we have on the force, they're veterans. And it's a great honor that we have them.
Of the 8 core staff in the Recreation and Cultural Affairs Division, this year, of the 8, 6 are Hispanic. And they speak just incredible Spanish. It's just delightful. So we're just so proud of that, again, we're bringing people on that are able to represent the people who live here, the residents.
If I may, and again, sorry, I usually just love to jump in on these conversations. Teaching, it's a hard job. And recruiting is, I think, very, very difficult to do, to get people from our community that even think about this sort of job. You're definitely not doing it for the money. You're doing it for the love of teaching. And I can only think of right now, when my circle of friends and acquaintances, I only know one individual. I went to Chelsea Public Schools, and then went on to become a teacher. She's a teacher today, and she's actually on the school committee, Ms. Kelly Garcia. And I'm thinking of everyone that we have sent through the process. So I throw it back onto, Chelsea graduates who have said, okay, you guys have gone through the school system. How many of you want to go on to be a teacher? And, maybe that's something that could be discussed also, because many of you go on to studies, and hopefully you're going to be taking advantage of the associate's degree to get a step into that direction of going to school, and then going on maybe to BU or one of our fine universities around here to become a teacher. But it's all about who's actually applying to. We can only hire whoever applies.
It's a valid question, and then there is school committee meetings, and as a youth commission member, this is an excellent question to bring up.
Great
tonight.
question.
And their human resources, and it's just not all Hispanic too. There's so many different, as you just mentioned, nationalities that we have to remember here that are coming through, and we see them every day. So we just have to have that balance and those mentors. And we have colleges that are the most incredible in the United States that are here in Boston, just bringing people that are interns over here to mentor our students. So great question, especially for the school department and their.
Yeah, I didn't mean to avoid it. It's just I have no direct control over those hires, so I can't affect any change in that school department in terms of impacting the diversity of the workforce there. All I can do it on the city side, and I have tried my best to do that. I know you have a question.
The one that writes them down is dangerous.
My name is Shakira. I live in Chelsea, and I'm a high schooler at Chelsea High. My question is, what are you doing to help with youth jobs? We are currently doing campaigns, and one of them are focusing on youth jobs because we lack them in our community, we realize. And yes, we do have Chelsea Collaborative, but there's not a lot of space, just like ECO doesn't have a lot of space. And we did a survey, and people in our school, we read their results, they just really need a job, and they really want one to help support their family and their personal needs. So I'm just wondering if you're doing anything about this.
So I would say directly, yes, although it's probably not enough. So directly, we support the summer jobs and the year-round jobs program of the Chelsea Collaborative. So when I got here, I think the city's contribution to that program was $75,000 annually. That is now up to $150,000. That whole program, the city support has doubled since I arrived. So we are trying by giving more money to the collaborative so that each summer they can hire more young people for summer jobs. In addition, the city started to support the ECO program at Green Roots, so we provide direct financial support to Green Roots to hire summer youth for their program. So that's two ways where, with the support of the city council, in our direct budget, we put money in to provide jobs for youth. We also support ROCA's Young Work Crew program with a direct contract. So we pay ROCA $145,000 so that their youth work crew can work in the city, and that supports jobs for the youth that are ROCA involved. So directly, that's a fair amount of money that we spend every year just to ensure that young people have jobs. Indirectly, we do try to encourage employers in the city to hire young people. So whenever I'm engaged in a conversation with a company, whether it's Kayem or Market Basket or the biotech company Accorda that's right across from the high school, we're always encouraging them to hire Chelsea youth for internships to get them started in the business. So that's and the same with the hotel. So indirectly, we try to encourage businesses that the city's supporting to hire youth, and directly we do it by appropriation in our budget. Now, I can see it's not enough, despite all that money that I just talked about, the 140 in ROCA, the 150,000 in our summer jobs program. You know, we're still only accommodating maybe 200 plus youth, and there's probably triple that or more that are in need of jobs. So there's more that we could do, but we continue to try to invest in this effort because I think we recognize that having a good job is really important to a young person.
Oh, you said you did a study? Or you did a questionnaire or some sort of survey?
Yes, for our campaign, and we asked kids in Chelsea High, I believe, at another school, Excel maybe, and we just asked what type of job you would like, why do you need this job, what time, what location, and they just give us the information. And the majority of it was basically they would like to have any job or something that involves their community, helping out. And the reason why they need a job is just to help their family.
So, I'm gonna talk a little bit. You guys are, I'm not gonna treat you, maybe you or anything like that, just a stark reality.
Yeah.
I own a business. I grew up in a business. My father, my mother had Tito's Bakery. I had no choice. I had to work there. Indentured servitude is what I call it. But I'm happy for the experience. Don't get me wrong. You learn later on. And as a small business owner, my preference is to shy away. I haven't had positive experiences hiring that age group. You're gonna have to do, and I wanna say this, maybe Tom, you can agree with this or not, but this community and this economy doesn't favor jobs for high school students. You are competing with immigrants who are out there desperate for jobs. You have an economy that, isn't, with the wages and such, doesn't, the number of kids that had jobs from high school was much higher than they are today. I don't see it the same way. You know, maybe temporary, even in the summer jobs, you're competing with college kids. So there's a lot more competition, I would say, for the jobs today than there were. And specifically when you're working with a community that is heavy immigrant, they're chasing the same jobs that the kids are. So there's a lot of people out there. And again, going back to my hat on as a business, there's just too much turnover when I'm hiring younger adults. I'd rather spend time training somebody who's going to be there a year or two. When I think about my experiences with younger boys, and I'm also talking about observing what my father has gone through. He's been in the business 40 years. We favor or gear towards people in their 20s and 30s that seem to be more responsible, they last longer. We spend all this time training somebody and then they're gone, and then you have to start this whole process all over again. So these are some of the factors of why it's very difficult for your age group to get jobs. There's not a lot, you've got a lot of competition, and you have employers who, and some jobs are just not safe. I can imagine Kayla with what's going on in there. I'm sure their insurance is saying, do I really want kids, teenagers near these machines that are processing meats and such? One thing to be stocking, cans or whatever at the Moolah's, but it's quite frankly, some of these other jobs are out there. I don't know if I'd want to be able to put a young adult in. But anyway, those are just some of the things that you have to compete. And I'm saying this to you guys so that when you go out there and you look for a job, what the reasons, you have to keep that in mind. What am I competing against? It's not just about the person. What is this person thinking? So maybe you have to just make sure that person, and I tell you and your colleagues, so you and your friends say, hey, make sure that you're going to be, you convey to the individual who's interviewing you that you're going to be responsible. You're in this for a long time or whatever, and you're just not going to be willy-nilly be gone in 2 months.
I think what we said is what. Let me just put in a plug for one, your comment that a lot of your fellow students are looking to get involved in something and make a little money. So we have this grant, SAPSI grant, which is Substance Abuse Prevention Grant. It's focused on actually vaping this go-round, and we're looking to form a youth group that would help us create a marketing campaign for youth to inform them of the dangers of vaping. And those members of that youth group that are going to help us with this campaign are going to get a little stipend. And I know that Jasmine from MGH, so this is a grant that we're working in cooperation with Mass General Hospital. The city has this grant. It's a 5-year, $500,000 grant. And so part of the grant is put together a youth group, have engaged them in putting together the marketing campaign. And so I know that there was a woman from MGH at the high school today at an information session trying to encourage youth to join a youth group, and she has a stipend to pay them. So if you see any information about that, I don't know when the next time she's going to be there. We're trying to pull this group together within the next month because they want to have an initial meeting in January. So you might see some information at Chelsea High School about this, and it's a paid position. So I would encourage you to, if you have any interest in that, getting involved in that kind of a youth group. As I said, it's a substance prevention group, and the specific goal of this youth group will be to help craft a social media campaign that will launch in the spring to inform your fellow students about the dangers of vaping. So the majority of the funding that we've done for jobs has been to those two organizations because they had existing programs. When Green Roots spun off from the collaborative and created their own youth group program, they came to the city and we said we would try to assist your youth group as well. And so that's the third group to whom we're directly giving some summer job, some money for youth jobs to. So I think this year we ended up giving, the first year we gave Green Roots maybe 10,000. We upped it this year. I can't remember, it was either 15 or 20,000. So those are the only three organizations. If some other organization came to the city that had a youth program, I think the city would consider supporting it as well. So I'd say we're open to.
Yeah, but I'm just also wondering, does it have to be an organization? Because before I worked at Eagle, I applied to Loca, but they said I could not join because I wasn't a teen mom, I wasn't a finance founder. And then the collaborative, it's a lottery system, they tell me. And there may be a chance I could not get in, which is what happened.
So the city can't just give money to individual people to have jobs. You generally have to give it to there's all sorts of rules about how a city can spend money. It fits within the rules for the city to support a nonprofit that's running a youth program. We
Even the
can.
Chelsea Public Library just can't have extra space,
Well, actually, the Chelsea Collaborative places individuals in those locations
The
for
library.
the city. See, the one thing about the collaborative program, the original program was actually run right by the city. This is, when I was a kid, it was the summer job program run by the city. But it makes sense for cities to have a staff person work there all year for a 3-month program, a 2-month program. So they basically farmed it out, contracted it out, and said, here, let's just have one organization take care of it. Now, the way it's set up is even though the Chelsea Collaborative is running it, they are placing everybody in other organizations like Catholic, was Central Latino at some point, neighborhood developers, I think. So they take the kids or the applicants and put them in different places, and they put them on the city. Some people are the park rangers or what used to be the city program, the school. So they do take it and put it in the city job. So it's just basically their management. And unfortunately, you know, it's about how much money we can give, or we being the city, but how much they also get to donate, because they seek donations from outside. Heinz Foundation or other entities give money to support it. And they only have a lottery because unfortunately we have 700 applicants, 250 positions. You know, we always have more, and it's always a request for more money.
I'm hearing two things. I'm hearing there's a summer youth employment where people are hired for 6 weeks. And then I think you're also asking, is there something more longer, for 12 months? Is somebody could have, that the money in the funding could have somebody for 12 months while they're going to school, 16, 17 years old. Is that what you're asking?
Well, I thought you said she didn't qualify for World Cup, and she didn't get the lottery for Chelsea Collaborative. So the question is, the reason is the lottery is not, if there was more funding for the Chelsea Collaborative summer job program, there wouldn't have been a lottery, she just would have had a job somewhere. Maybe, I don't know if that's, if I'm reaching.
No, not really. It was just, I was just thinking, the jobs that the collaborative have, can we turn some of those, at least 3, into a full year, like the library, the office, like the police station, just small stipends for these teens that need a job, if that's possible. And like you said, that there's not enough, there's a certain amount of money you can spend. Do we have that amount
So the collaborative, part of that program is some full-time, year-long jobs. So we do, so some of the money we give to the collaborative is utilized for year-round jobs. There's a small percentage of them. I don't know right now how many they fund with the money we give them, but a small percentage are year-round jobs. Could we add, you know, if the library director came to me and said it would help me to have a couple of full-time full-year part-time people here, I would consider that request. That's different than just saying I'm gonna fund a position just to make work for someone, because I have to know that the department head that's gonna oversee this job really needs the work done, and it isn't just a job where they have to spend time babysitting someone. I don't mean that, I mean that in a way that it's just more work to try to oversee someone than get a necessary job done. And so, as I said, if a department came to me and said, look, I could really use having a part-time position here of a student, it would help me immensely, I'd certainly listen to that. And if that is actually the case in the library, and the director comes to me, I would certainly consider that for the next FY20 budget. But I'd have to hear from the department head that I have a need for this.
Could I ask some questions? Sure. Hi, Francisco Toro, Veteran Services. Sorry I'm running a little late. What's your name?
Shakaya.
In Chicago. One question. So you get together with, are you in the high school?
Yes.
Which grade?
No, 11.
Okay, outstanding. When you get together with your group, your peers, and you talk about looking for work, if someone were to ask you, you know, I'm looking to develop some skills to look for work, where would you send them?
To any job. Like, a lot of people would ask me if there's any job openings, and they would ask me for specific things. I'll try to give them information on a job. Now, it may be full, but I'll tell them to wait on it to see if there's more space. But if not, I'll just give them other job opportunities that are open, and I'll try to help them apply.
But when I'm talking about like skills, like resume building, how to interview, you know, like they have mock interviews, those type of, I guess in my time they called them life skill classes. You know, for those of us who weren't great at math, you know, they'd offer us other options. Do they offer anything like that at the Chelsea High School?
No.
You have any guidance if they're not doing that?
Now, is there any kind of like website that has a listing where you can go like Chelsea schools, you know, to oversee? Because one of the things that Tom was talking about, like the government rules, is that, you know, certain agencies are vetted because they have experience in overseeing these programs and making sure that they try to fall within the city guidelines. Where would you go to look for work, like online, like everything's online now, and just for jobs for youth in the city?
There's no resource on the Chelsea High School website from what I know, but when I
Well, anywhere.
I used to just go on these jobs.
Okay, so there's a youth jobs website.
I don't know the exact website, but yeah.
So you haven't used it yourself?
I used to just look at jobs, but all I got was McDonald's and other stuff like that.
Entry level, okay. All right, all right. Now, Tom, I had a question. One of the things, you know, I'm kind of, you know, I guess a little nosy sometimes, and I ask the students that I see, you know, doing the work, hey, how do you like it? And I tend to come across sometimes, every now and then, a person who, they wanted an outside job, but they got in the library, and they're not too happy with that. So I was just wondering, would it be possible for the lottery to be separated by people who actually want to be in the library and then people who want to be outside? So that way,
I guess so, but as Roy said, the city's no longer directly running
Oh, I see.
the summer jobs program. At one point it did, but it's now outsourced that all to the Chelsea Collaborative. There, we don't have our own internal summer jobs program. Honestly, for good reason, because it's a logistical nightmare to run a summer jobs program. I ran it in Revere, it was a disaster. It's very time consuming and it's a lot of aggravation. So I think the city of Chelsea made a smart choice outsourcing it. But having done that, it no longer controls the lottery. The lottery is done. I certainly can inquire, the collaborative comes to meet with me before the summer to talk through how the program will work. I can certainly talk to them about trying to structure the lottery so that people get the kind of jobs they want. I think they do try to place people in jobs that they would like, but perhaps it doesn't always work.
no, because as a veteran, you know, you have to adjust from military life to civilian life, and it can be challenging. I think, you know, it will be a great benefit. One of the things that Councilor Avellaneda mentioned was, it's tough for us, you know, I mean, you know, I still see myself young inside, to go to a restaurant or go to an office and there's a youth person there and you ask for help and you get not the best reception. You know, sometimes it's like, or, you know, and you don't see the commitment to that. And sometimes you see youth talking to you, but they're doing this, and you're like, well, could you like put the cell phone down so I don't have to repeat myself a third time? You know, and you get those things. And for us in the military, you know, there's veterans programs that offer, you know, where you do resume building. You take things that like there's things in the military that really doesn't translate well to civilian life, like, you know, where we have to work with, you know, certain military equipment. But they teach us out of that, you can extract time management, asset management, and you can translate stuff within that particular task to a resume that's effective. I know you guys are here for, you know, your reason, you know, there's other things you could be doing. And I commend you on that. So I'm thinking maybe you guys volunteer and work in other things where you can extract different type of skills that you can work to put on your resume. And also with veterans, when they go to interviews, you know, just because they were driving a $10 million tank doesn't mean that they didn't get nervous during their interview. That sometimes they would say more than they should. And also too, even after you get hired, you know, they complain sometimes that their career is stagnating, but also too, when you have a job, you have to be careful of what you say at the job. You have to be careful that, you know, you're not the person that everyone's, oh, that one's always on their cell phone. So there's certain life skill classes to having a very successful career so that, you know, you understand work is work, and then after work, you know, when you get that paycheck, you get to do what you want. And when you want that paycheck to grow, it's through your work and the quality of your work that expands that. So I don't know. I'm sure there's something out there. Maybe somewhere along the way, you know, I'm not familiar with all the programs. Tom, I can't even imagine how many programs he oversees, you know, through all the different departments. But I have to assume that there has to be resources and career coaches and put together a program so that way for people like Councilor Avellaneda who are concerned about the quality of the youth, you know, as their commitment to the work, they can come from a program and say, this person has been vetted, this is a real employee, and we stand by our name and our reputation of this program, and maybe that'll start changing, you know, saying, oh, from this Chelsea program? Oh, yeah, no problem, come on in. And you know, and you could be the forefront of that advocacy.
So there's not necessarily a Chelsea program like that, but there is a lot of this kind of workforce development, skills building happening right now in relation to the casino. Now, I'm not saying that you folks would necessarily be looking for casino jobs. I don't know, there's probably an age limit for those jobs that you're not, maybe 21. But one good thing is that in preparation for these casino jobs, the city is working with agencies like the Chelsea Collaborative and like the neighborhood developers to create some of these skills building classes so that people are better prepared for that workforce, but they're not necessarily limited to the casino workforce. And I'm specifically thinking about two things you mentioned, building, resume building skills and interviewing skills. And there are classes that are being offered on both all around here, not just in Chelsea, but in Everett and Malden. And for the most part, they're free. So we're gonna be, I believe I'm gonna be getting a list very soon, like soon within the next 2 weeks, from the Workforce Development Board in this area, the Metro North Regional Employment Board is going to be distributing a calendar of these kind of classes, and we'll be pushing that calendar out on our website and social media, and it will list all these kind of skills building classes that will exist in Chelsea and in surrounding cities, and I think they'll be available to anyone who's interested, including high school students. As I said, they're being done in preparation for jobs at the casino, but they're open to everyone because there's a recognition in this, in the area that there's not just a concern about filling jobs at the casino, it's how do you backfill the jobs that people leave to go work for the casino. So lots of restaurants, lots of other businesses are gonna find themselves short of workers as people migrate to work at the casino. The jobs they leave are gonna need to be filled as well. And so the next 6 months is gonna be a lot of these classes out there for interviewing skills and resume building to ensure that there's a ready group of people who can move into these jobs. So if that's something that you're interested in, I would say you're gonna have a lot of opportunity to do that in the next 6 months. And I would say just pay attention to the city's website because we'll be posting that calendar of those classes very soon. I think I'm gonna get a list within the next 2 weeks.
The casino is looking at hiring 4,500 jobs. So it's an astronomical number.
Right.
And they're opening up at the end of June, is that correct?
Yes.
So it's going to be moving pretty fast starting in February. Winter months will come out.
Now, I don't know how many, if any, of those casino jobs are available to people who are under the age of 21. There could be some outside of the casino floor itself, in the hotel, in the restaurants. I don't know what their limits are, but as people migrate to those jobs, they're gonna be leaving other jobs. So you may find that there's a lot more opportunity this coming summer than there has been, because as B said, filling 4,500 jobs, almost 5,000 jobs is gonna be very difficult for the casino. They're gonna suck a lot of people out of other jobs, like the market basket jobs, and you may have a hard time filling jobs at Pine Cafe because of that. So you may find that there's gonna be some opportunity available because of the casino.
So if your families are interested, on December the 14th, there's going to be a job fair
Job fair at City Hall.
City Hall
for the casino. So that might be something you want to spread the word out to family members. What day is it?
It's a Friday.
It's a Friday afternoon, so we're gonna close, City Hall closed. It's from 4 to 7 p.m. at Chelsea City Hall. It's gonna be a job fair run by Encore Casino, specifically to encourage Chelsea residents to think about applying for these 4,500 jobs. And we have a little coalition. We're trying to get 500 of those jobs for Chelsea residents. That's a lot of jobs for a city this size. So if you're interested or you have family members interested, like I said, I'm not particularly certain how many, if any, casino-related jobs young people under 21 can qualify for. I'd be surprised if the answer were none. It's probably some number, but there are a lot of jobs where I think the minimum age is going to be 21. Nonetheless, this is worth exploring, and particularly worth exploring if you have older siblings. So Friday, December 14th, Chelsea City Hall, 4 to 7.
Tom, they did commit to a percentage that they have to be Chelsea residents, right?
No, they did not commit to
Oh, no?
any percentage.
Oh, okay.
We're trying to get them to do 500 of the jobs for Chelsea, but they haven't, they have no contractual obligation to that.
Besides questions about jobs, are there other questions that you have for members, other concerns or more information you want to hear?
Yeah, so there's like no team space in Chelsea, so I was wondering what's the process for acquiring that space for like that kind of environment?
So this has been something that I've struggled with since the day I became city manager. There was a desire among city councils to create some sort of teen center. I haven't made any progress on that yet. It does require trying to figure out how you would both not just acquire the space, but also how you staff it. I mean, that's an expensive proposition for the city to run a teen center in terms of the salaries and the programming that you have to put in there. So it's something that the council reminds me about each and every year. I mean, it's possible that this redevelopment of the Salvation Army might provide an opportunity. We haven't quite sorted out what's going to happen there, but I recognize that's a huge need, and I'm trying to figure out a way to do it. One thing we have, one opportunity that could exist is partnering in some way, shape, or form with the owner of the former YMCA building right across from City Hall. That's something that we've talked to him about. They have gym space in that lower area that really would be, could accommodate teen use. It's a matter of seeing if we could partner with some nonprofit to provide the programming in there. So that remains a possibility. So the short answer to the question is, I recognize the need. I don't yet have a specific solution, but it's something the council constantly reminds me about, and I'm working with it.
And, the research that we have done in the Health and Human Services, the rec division, is that it feels that when we look at other cities, it's usually better under a larger entity. Just not a youth center by itself, but like the Boys and Girls Club having a youth center in it, YMCA having a youth center in it, what you're just saying. It just makes more sense when it comes to who's going to manage it, other different entities they have, family that are part of it. So these are something to think of in a larger way than just a youth center in and of itself.
And I will say that one of the things that we have done in the last couple of years is substantially expand these operations. So we created a whole new division called the Recreation and Cultural Affairs Division that B now runs. We've infused that division with a lot more money that it had in the past. We've hired some more people, we've provided more programming, and we continue to try to create more opportunities and programs within B's department that can be targeted to young people and teens. So, and I would say, I think that there is a difference between the level of programming aimed at that group today versus what was here 3 or 4 years ago.
We've just expanded, we're our second week in Clark Avenue School, which is outstanding. The facility is beyond beautiful. It is so magnificent, and we've now been in there about 6 days. So that's something, again, to think about how we're gonna use that building, what are the different things are gonna be in that building after 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
And a lot could be geared towards teens.
Yeah, so just, we're still figuring it out, but I agree that we've done a lot within the last 2 years. We're doing a lot of technology needs for the actual Division II, making sure we have e-commerce, making sure that we have a lot of stability, our permitting, our rules and regulations, our policies are able to take care and support the demand that now the citizens and residents are needing. So we're growing pretty fast, but it's, all signs are really good. And so hope to do a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, with the support of the council, we've probably doubled the amount of money that your department is getting.
Because we've got personnel now, which is, again, we just said of the 8 that we have that are core, 6 are Hispanic and several are completely brand new. Youth Commission knows that, of Omar and Natalie, and they only have 4 months here. So we're very excited about what could be, and
That's another thing we did, is we reinvigorated this youth commission that had been dormant for a while, so.
yeah, and we're so happy to see the 4 of you here. So this is important about how we're going to be able to keep voicing the concerns and the needs to the city. You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Could be anything.
You could be anything at all.
One more question. My name is Jessica Enriquez, born and raised in Boston. Moved to Chelsea about 2 years ago. My question is about affordable housing, like the funding on that. Do you have any assistance housing, or how can us as residents or the community help out with that? Because I know, rent is rising and everything in the area. So what ways can we help out? Radius.
So the city, there will start to be some money available for programs just like that. The city has passed a Community Preservation Act and has significant amounts of money in that fund that they're trying to figure out how best to spend. And a lot of that, a portion of that money must be spent on affordable housing. So Kyle works for the city in the planning department, and he is the staff to the Community Preservation Committee. And B is on the committee. And so that committee right now has about $1.2 million in funding, and every year we'll get.
Affordable housing trust.
Right, so that, and independent of that, it's an Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board that also has some money. It too is in the process of putting together a plan for how it wants to spend it. So both of these entities that have good chunks of money that can be utilized for affordable housing are currently in the process of planning how best to spend. First-time home buyer assistance is one of the opportunities that exists, and likely will be part of whatever plan gets adopted. So that's something the city's working on, hasn't yet finalized its plan. In addition, the city just generally encourages the development of affordable housing, so we try to support private developers who come in and want to build affordable housing. We continue to do that. So those are really the 2 ways. And the city passed recently, 2 years ago now, an affordable housing ordinance that basically says anyone who builds in the city more than 10 units must set aside some number of those units as affordable. And so that is something that should in the future be helpful. So those are 3 ways: the Community Preservation Act, Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board, both of which have money, and this ordinance which now demands that any developer coming into the city must set aside some number of units as affordable. So for example, there is a big proposal before the city right now to develop a home site, 600-unit proposal. I don't know if it will get approved or how many units will get approved, but whatever gets approved, some good percentage of that, at least 10 if they do low affordability, will be required to be set aside as affordable units. So that could be anywhere between 60 and 90 new affordable units if a project of that size gets approved.
So we're also brainstorming ideas, because we understand that all of the market pressures are just making the problem worse, and those are things we don't have control over. But we are brainstorming all kinds of ideas to see if we can kind of set policies to kind of reduce the pressure, especially as units change hands. And so if you have ideas,
Like when we became a realtor 6 months ago,
okay,
so when I got the people
I'll give you my card.
Please.
We're happy to, sit down and talk. There are limits just by statute what we're allowed to do. And so we better work with it.
There's a public meeting of this committee tomorrow night at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Where are you meeting?
3:05.
Oh, in the city council, the city council function, 3rd floor of City Hall. That's a public meeting of the Community Preservation Act Committee, and that's a meeting where they're gonna be discussing how to spend some of this affordable housing money.
Look, how to write a plan.
How to-
And of all the public meetings we've had, any of the information meetings that we've had with the public, it's overwhelming that people are asking for affordable housing. We see that, the committee sees that, it's a no-brainer. And so one other thing I think is important, about 5 times a year, Carol Enriquez, she was a teacher here in the school department. She's now a real estate agent herself, and Roy has helped. She's come here and talk about the home buying process, and just trying to be able to get people to navigate that system. So glad Roy's here too. So we hope to do more of that, because it's a very intimidating system, and for people to feel a little bit more comfortable, especially families and that are looking for more than 2 bedrooms, and they need to be able to keep paying on a monthly basis.
I use my real estate experience too, because I'm actually been a broker for 15 years. So Tom will tell you that we've had back and forth emails about development and what's going on in the city, and how I use that experience that you're talking about. I'm 1 of 2 realtors on the council, but we use our experience of what we're seeing in Chelsea to try to formulate policy. That's why I push for the CPA to get passed, or to take a look at certain ratios of income levels, and again, even talk numbers of developments, because before we grasp of what is going on, what can people afford and what they can't. So all this knowledge is used to create policy, and hopefully, again, sitting in those meetings on the community preservation front, they figure out what's the best use of the money. Is it down payment assistance? Is it to buy to lower the cost, the initial cost of a couple of apartments? There's many different, and these conversations are being had in the community. So a lot of input's being made, and we'll figure out what happens. But it's nice to know we have this money. I think, it wasn't easy to get that going, so that's the biggest part, that we actually have a way. And again, talking about the inclusionary zoning is huge.
But the other thing I would say is that the suggestion of council, sometime in the latter half of 2019, assuming they fund it, we're going to be starting a master plan process for the city, where we're going to kind of try and create a community vision, almost neighborhood by neighborhood, of what we want to see in the neighborhoods. And
Yes, but that has no affordable units because it was permitted before our inclusionary zoning ordinance took effect. So
Or
that,
they voluntarily did like 10 and 90%.
they did
Okay, this did.
20-something at 85% of here and median income, which is not gonna be helpful for us.
Which one?
Not Fairfield.
Oh, Fairfield, yeah.
Tom, can you speak just a little bit about Reimagining Broadway, just to give anybody an update on that?
Yeah, so one
downtown?
of the points of focus that I had, and what I mentioned when I first started, that economic development is a high priority for me, was the downtown. We've invested a lot of money in the downtown. I mentioned we've done all new lighting, new benches, put a lot of police presence there to try to make people feel a little better about the downtown. We'll be rolling out a facade program to help store owners and business owners improve the facade, the front of their building. In addition to that, we, with the council's support, committed $5 million to just improve the infrastructure, the look of Broadway. So we're gonna be doing new streets, new sidewalks. I don't know if we need new lighting, because we did a lot of
But
good
signalizing the
of
intersection.
signalizing intersections, make it much safer, change the configuration of some of the squares, particularly Bellingham Square, so that it's much easier to cross. The area in front of the fire station, make it much easier to cross. So we're in the planning stages of what that is going to look like. The council approved a couple of pieces of it already and is waiting to approve a few more pieces. The specific things still outstanding of what is Bellingham Square specifically gonna look like, and what does the one-way Broadway corridor, what is that specifically gonna look like? Is there gonna be a dedicated bus lane? Are there gonna be dedicated bike lanes? So we're still working on a couple of designs for each of these areas. But once the council approves the full design, and I expect that to happen probably within the next 6 months, we are gonna start working on actually building a new Broadway corridor. And I think it's really gonna be something special, really gonna make the area kind of pop and look different than it looks right now, and hopefully much better than it looks right now.
The Chelsea Cultural Council put out a survey, a call to artists, and so we have about 45 artists that have given up their names that live in the city, so that's really exciting that we can draw from. We have not only just the Chelsea Walk that has this beautiful mural, but there is a mural on Cherry, on the corner of Cherry and Everett Ave, that the Chelsea Public Schools has been supporting the Chelsea Cultural Council initiative, and it's called Chelsea Now. And it will be done in the spring. It is.
Even looks good now.
It looks good now. It'll be done in the spring and sealed in the spring. So there's still work on it, and probably will be opening that up or cutting the ribbon to that in May or June. So there is a lot of excitement, and we hope to have a lot of more beautiful things to look at in terms of color and flowers, and just making it a really beautiful place, Chelsea's.
And it's not just downtown. So in 2017, the city council passed a complete streets policy. So as we're moving across the city, we're looking to put bike and pedestrian infrastructure that's safe for everyone. So for all users, they say that if you kind of plan for the toddlers and the seniors, you get everyone in between. And so we're trying to rethink our street network so it's much more friendly to people who are using it in ways other than just driving.
We're looking at a city for master plan in for recreation parks, the park system to beautify. Highland Park had a beautiful facelift this past summer, and we're hoping to continue that in the fall. And at some point, we would really like to have a new field, just like the high school that's down the road, but still in all, we're working very hard for all the parks to have running water, good electricity, to have this, John Montez always calls it the wow factor, that you walk into our parks and say, wow, how beautiful, that they're lined on time in April, and they're just just pay for it. So,
We're
we're
also
excited.
starting to think about a new park at the Chelsea Street Bridge. And,
Waterfront, yes.
yes,
Waterfront
the
Park.
waterfront park. We had our first meeting with one of the tentative landscape architects, and one of the things that I challenged them to do was to think about how you could program some of that space for teams. Because we have lots of parks, top lots, but very little for the 12 to 18.
Looking at art in the parks, different art, different types of art that you would want to go in to see. So there's just a lot coming, and we are very, very excited every day to keep working towards having this most beautiful city.
Even more
Yes.
people.
Do you have
Yes, I have two questions. I have $5 million, so I'm just curious, do you have that for the city already, or are you trying to make that amount of money for the city to beautify it?
No, the council's authorized the spending, and we'll borrow it.
And,
We'll borrow it for that particular project.
okay, and is the community involved with this? Or are you getting any information on how you want to be beautified, the murals, what type of paintings do they want?
So we tried to get this Reimagining Broadway effort was underway for a year and a half. We had 4 big public meetings. We really tried to engage the public. I can't say that it was as engaged as I would have liked it to be. And the problem is, you kind of get the same people who show up at public meetings all the time. And you must see that when you go to a public meeting. It's the same people all the time that are there. So we'll continue to try as we roll out these new pieces to the council that they're gonna have to vote on in the next 6 months. We're gonna try to have a couple more public meetings where we let the public see the designs as well. In terms of the public art, that's nothing that's been determined as of yet, so we'll certainly be looking for public input. Kind of go through a process like I think Green Roofs went through when they were designing the Chelsea Walk, and they worked with the city with, they tried to get some public engagement about what that might look like. So we'd probably end up doing similar type of engagement, particularly on the public art pieces.
And some of it is a private building, and so it's gonna really depend on where the artwork is going.
And you've been doing public meetings, how do you grab people from the community? You just post it online?
So for our Reimagining Broadway, we posted on our website, we put it in social media, so we have a Twitter and we have a Facebook page, we put everything on that. We
Flyered Broadway.
flyered Broadway for every meeting, dropping flyers in businesses. I have this Chelsea Happenings newsletter that comes out probably about once a month. And if you want to be on it, just give me your email address. I'll make sure you're on it. We send one out about every 6 weeks. It's on that. So.
Don't forget, partnered with the Chelsea Chamber, they have events. right?
Yes,
They have meetings.
yes.
They did outreach.
They did outreach.
There were a couple of third-party, I think Chelsea Collaborative did something, TNT did something.
Yes, so we tried to work it out to other nonprofits to do events. The same sort of thing that we do for all these planning efforts. So we're doing a municipal harbor plan. We're doing the same thing. When we have public meetings, and there's one coming up.
November 28th, the Wednesday, at the Senior Center.
So
And so, for example, I sent the flyer to the collaborative. They have a meeting tomorrow night, and they're going to hand out the flyer on that public.
you send stuff to Green Groups to let them know about it.
Oh, I was the featured speaker.
So we try very hard to engage the public.
And we can always do better.
Yes, and we can always do better, absolutely. But I made this comment last night to a city councilors at a subcommittee meeting. No matter how much you do, expanding that core group of people who show up to every public meeting is very difficult. Mostly because people live very busy lives, and it's hard to get people to come out to local meetings at night after they've worked 2 jobs, they're exhausted, and they have kids to take care of. It's difficult to get people to get engaged, so it's not easy. We can always do better, but it's why, not just in Chelsea, but every community is the same story. The same 150-odd people show up at every single event.
Well, Tom, we're just so glad you're our city manager. Roy, we're so glad that you've been plugging away. Your father's the best, and I just want to say thanks to Carl, too. Carl, I see how planning and development, they don't stop a minute. I thank everyone from Green Roots to also Youth Commission, and thank you for coming. You know, I'm really glad this was for veterans. We're real excited about also the Soldiers' Home that's going to be happening up there. It's going to be more housing, that's right, up there that's going to be happening soon. So Chelsea is on the move.
Except the water tower's going.
Water tower's going, yeah, but we've put it in the mural, so it'll be preserved for a while there. So anyway, everyone, if you want to be on Tom's list, you can give your email address at the front desk, and I'll hand it over to
Yeah,
Tom.
that'd be great.
Thank you for, I hope we do a 4th one again in
Yes.
November next year. Thanks for Chelsea Record, or their Chelsea Community Cable, and hopefully we'll get on the Chelsea Record with this too, but thanks to everybody over at the cable station, and hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Okay, Ida?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.